Good morning everybody and welcome to this week's edition of the RDA Central West Business Leaders Breakfast. And I'm really excited to be joined by the hard-working Mayor of Cowra, Councillor Bill West. Welcome to breakfast.
Thank you, Sam. Great to be with you and appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no, really excited to have a chat this morning to learn more about, I guess, your journey to public office and some of the local priorities here in Cowra. But Bill, for those of our listeners and viewers that might not know about your journey, can you tell us about your connection to Cowra and I guess what led you to your public office?
I guess it's just life's a journey, and it is a journey. In a previous life, I was involved in sport administration. I've got a family that my late parents were heavily involved in community organisations. My dad was on council for a couple of terms. My sister, of course, was a senator for a number of years in federal parliament, and I guess it's that community responsibility, community assistance, if you like, was something that was part of the DNA, and got to a point where I could see myself having time. Put my hand up and got elected. The rest is, I guess, public record. But it was just something that evolved over opportunity. And
so they often say that local government's the hardest level of government. And you've been a councillor, I believe, here at Cowra for about 20 years.
About that,
how has, I guess, local government changed? But secondly, how has the region changed in that period?
It's an interesting question, and it's not really a simple question. I guess local government has changed. There's far more requirements for compliance. I think it's probably been the biggest change. And the cost shifting against local government from state and federal, but the compliance has become quite enormous and significant. In terms of the region and both locally. So it has evolved. I think through compliance, I'd put down as being the biggest issue.
And how has Cowra as a community changed? What are some examples of some of the big changes that you've seen in your local community over that period?
I think the community, that's a philosophical question as much as a practical question. Because I think philosophically you go back and look at the reduction in services from probably something like TAFE and kids going through to year 12 and the impact that had on trainees and apprentices and so forth, which we're now starting to see with skills shortages. So a lot of people having to leave town for education and so forth, that's had a massive impact, not over the last 10 years, but over the last 30 years. So I think but in terms of our community, obviously rural, the drought, millennium drought, had a significant impact, and the last drought had a very significant impact as well on the community, both economically and socially.
Now look, have you seen confidence returning? We've seen lots of visitation to the region over recent times, but I guess have you seen that confidence in the ag sector around Cowra, coming back on in the last 12 months?
Confidence has returned dramatically. Very, very pleasing to see, of course. Tourism, as we know, has been very, very vibrant in the last few months since the lifting of restrictions of COVID-19, and people coming out and discovering what a beautiful place Cowra is, but not just Cowra, our region is, and hopefully they will continue to come back. As far as agriculture is concerned, commodity prices have been pretty good for the last couple of years despite the drought, and that's led to a lot of confidence, and I think a bit more money floating around than people did probably anticipate, and some of those industries associated with agriculture are doing quite well at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess ag has gone through a massive transformation of its own over the last few decades. I believe you're a fifth generation farmer here in this region. From your perspective, how has your farm enterprise changed in recent times, from both a farming perspective but also I guess a business admin perspective, because it's changed, farming is now small and medium business.
I think farming is a business, and I believe most farmers now are looking at it purely as a business, which is important, because as you rightly point out, that a lot of the administration stuff or requirements, I should say, that we need to comply with has certainly increased. But I think also the technology's increased, and that's increased from motorbikes, tractors, spraying equipment, harvesters. All the equipment has just dramatically changed. Technology around livestock handling has all changed. The ability to actually, and where IT or information technology and telecommunications come into it, with a lot of farmers with their farm machinery now using GPS and that kind of information, as well as direct information about sowing rates and chemical rates and what's coming into the header on a real-time data. So there's all that information is changing. So where we finish up at, I don't know. I think the next one people will be using will be small drones to go and check sheep, check cattle, check water troughs, that sort of stuff, fences.
And even do it spraying.
Changing.
Even spraying with those drones, targeted spraying. It's amazing where it's going, but I guess keeping on top of it is probably one of the challenges for a lot of local farmers, but it's exciting, I think.
I think it's exciting times, and it's a challenge for a lot of farmers, but a lot of the younger generation farmers. And it's pleasing to see there are younger farmers coming back into the organisations and into the farms, which is tremendous to see, because they're the future, and they will embrace this sort of technology.
Yeah, and it's also good for the regional communities that we represent here, having that kind of those boomerangs, I guess, that go away for some experience and some years and then come back and have their families and everything else that comes with that.
And come back, and I think that the important thing is that over years we've probably denigrated the intellect of a lot of farmers, and I think that when you look around our agricultural areas now, there's some very, very smart men and women on the land who are doing great things and will be the leaders into the future, so it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. What else is exciting, as you touched on just before, is I guess the uptick in visitation to Cowra and our region. One of the really great tourism offerings that's got me excited, that I know you were a driving force behind, is the Cowra Voices app. I guess for those that don't know about it, can you tell us, I guess, about it and how it started?
Well, I guess it was something that evolved out of a couple of people who decided that there was a story to be told, and they just made approaches to council and to other organisations to get funding to do it, and consequently we now have this fabulous app which you can download on your phone. And we had the Japanese ambassador in town just recently, and we showed him some of the highlights of the Cowra app, and I would be surprised if he doesn't have it on his phone as well. So it's a way of telling the story through the eyes of a whole diversity of people in our community, and it really is an exciting app to get your hands on.
Yeah, we'll definitely put the details up for that Cowra Voices app after this morning's chat. Make sure you download it, listen to some of those stories, and it's a fantastic way to kind of learn a little bit more about the unique story that Cowra has as a community.
Some of the backstories that you wouldn't normally hear, and I think that's the exciting way to tell history, is that you actually get some conversations from people who have deep knowledge, but in a broad context, not a detailed, long-winded session.
Yeah, no, definitely check that one out. Now we're going to hit Bill with the Fast Five. This is where we get to learn a little bit more about our special guest. Bill, best pub or restaurant in the Central West or in your community?
I've got to go Cowra, haven't I?
Yeah.
You expect me to?
Of course, that goes without saying.
I've got to walk down the main street, but I got to toss up between the Imperial and all the Rower hotels.
Okay, look, good. Go-to karaoke song when you're down at the Imperial and you've had a couple.
I don't do karaoke, but I've seen a couple of very good Michael Hutchins renditions by a couple of local, one in particular local council staff member. It was brilliant. So
okay, good.
I'm happy to go that way. He's my what do you call him? My stand-in.
Yeah, we don't have to name any names. That's all right.
No.
Hidden gem of Cowra. So if you've got visitors coming to your community, something that they might not know about, when they come, you love to show it off. And
well, the Japanese gardens, of course, is number one, and a lot of work being done up there now in terms of the cultural aspect, which is the hidden gem and it's being exposed. The other one is I think hidden gem for Wangler Dam.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's been a lot of people up there recently because it's got some good water levels at the moment. Now, one that I just wanted to touch on is favourite local event or festival.
Well, there's probably three in Cowra. One's the Festival of International Understanding, which is a great event to recognise our international understanding. The local show obviously is one that catches people, but the other one that I think really catches attention is the Sakura Matsuri Festival in September, the Cherry Blossom Festival at Japanese Gardens and around town. That's also special and very spectacular. Yeah,
look, we'll put the link up to the Japanese Gardens and all the information, I guess, about when is the Cowra show, just for those that have been putting it in their calendar?
It's in October, but I'd suggest you just Google or go onto the Show Society website. That'll tell you that.
We'll whack that up there as well. I guess country shows are really starting to ramp back up, I guess. Plenty starting to happen around our region.
And our Show Society is very active. And they're actually getting some good grants to actually upgrade their facilities, and they're really looking at a community facility apart from just running a show. Yeah, so nice. They're really active in that space, which is great to see. Yeah, absolutely. Now the last Fast Five is hidden hobby or talent. Hidden talent is probably not very much. Hidden hobby is I don't really have any hobbies. I think since being a farmer and a mayor, you sort of don't have too many hobbies. But I don't mind getting out in my garden occasionally. And actually, one of my relaxations is riding a motorbike.
Okay.
Just a farm motorbike.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Just disappearing. Just.
Bill is underselling himself. He was a talented cricketer from what I've deciphered.
What you heard, yeah.
Exactly, from what I've deciphered, but we don't need to go into, the day he took 5 for or scored 50 or 100.
There are a lot of urban myths. Yeah. The older I get, the better I get.
Exactly, isn't that? Yeah, I've heard that. That definitely happens. My footy career was, I was on the precipice of AFL nowadays anyway.
Yeah.
Look, I guess there's also been some major infrastructure announcements recently in your local community. A couple that I just thought we could touch on is maybe the Cowra Hospital and also Wyangala Dam. And I guess from an economic development perspective and a amenity perspective, why are those two projects so significant?
I think that we probably, and we've talked about some of this stuff at length, infrastructure is going to be the key to regional growth and prosperity. And you quite rightly point out two big ones for Cowra. Exciting ones is the hospital, redevelopment, and also the increased capacity of Wyangala Dam. In terms of the hospital, it's about community health and wellbeing, and we have an old facility which is way beyond its use by date. So we're really keen to pursue that opportunity. The government has announced that they will go ahead with it. So we're going to be holding to account and work very closely with them, both with the government and Western Area Health, to make sure it happens for our community. That will obviously have a significant impact in terms of economic growth within our region, not just Cowra, our region. As far as Wyangala Dam is concerned, the potential is enormous. Water security, a whole range of issues around that. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of speculative information out there which is not being helpful at the moment, creating some doubt. These issues need to be worked through, and I'm sure they will be, but in terms of the economic drivers and the value to our communities, not just water security, it's enormous.
Yeah.
They are generational shifts which will take communities into the future, and I think most of the issues that are being raised in terms of concerns can be addressed, but at the end of the day, some of these issues really have just to be addressed. We can't just stop and do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. They are generational projects, transformational projects for the betterment of your community and the region more broadly into the future.
Particularly, well, I think with the hospital, a district hospital, how it fits in with the base hospital, the MPSs, so it's not just isolated to Cowra. As far as the dam is concerned, obviously it provides water security for a much greater region, but it benefits industry as well, up and down the length of the Lachlan Valley, which is 90,000 square kilometres, but also water potentially moving around the region for critical human needs in those critical times.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that's important, as you touched on, is infrastructure projects. Now, the council also has, councils do plenty of local infrastructure projects, but one that caught my eye is the Cowra Community Grants. They closed recently as well. Yeah. And I guess, what are some of the projects that you're proud the council's been able to support over recent times through that pathway? I
think there's kind of a yin and yang in council, isn't there? We're talking about multi-million-dollar projects, or in the case of the dam, they're speculating billion-dollar projects, and we go back to small community projects, and they are equally important. We have grants twice a year, total about $50,000-$60,000 bucket, goes up to about $2,000 grant to community-based voluntary organisations. They're not for a current expenditure, but they help in terms of things like computers, painting halls, fitting out with blinds, all those sort of necessities that make their life so much easier, and just supports them. And I think we find that I think all local government, for every dollar like that you spend, you probably get $10, $20 worth of value back in return. So they're exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And it just shows you the length and breadth of the role and involvement of local government, that you're doing everything from major transformational projects. But those small projects, I think the last round just closed a couple of weeks ago. So great for the region. Now, one of the things that I just wanted to touch on this morning, we've spoken about your journey in local government, but I think local government elections are a little bit later.
September this
year. Yep. I guess, what's been one of the benefits that you've garnered from your experience in local government, and why would you encourage other people to, if they've thought about it, to put their name forward?
In terms of benefits, from a personal perspective, it's just been the opportunity I've had to be involved with some of the decision making and part of the process, and some of the tremendous people I've met on the way through. The world is full of great people, good people. In terms of the community, I just encourage people to put their hand up. I respect people who will put their hand up. I think we have too many keyboard warriors who want to throw rocks at people, and I really support people who want to put their hand up and be part of the decision-making process. And I encourage people not to be concerned that they don't have enough to offer. Put your hand up, have a go at it, have a look at it. It is rewarding. It is time-consuming from time to time. It can be frustrating from time to time. It can be almost heartbreaking from time to time, but it's still very, very rewarding. So yeah, I'd encourage anybody that wants to contemplate it, put your hand up. But I think the flip side of that is there's a few of us who have been around for a while, more than happy to talk to anybody and more than happy to engage and I wouldn't say advise, but provide information and answers to any questions people have that, and it would appear to some to be daunting, and I appreciate that. So happy to help.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to support your local community.
Yep.
Now, one of the things that we really focus on here is we're doing our 10 for 10 leadership program, which is about supporting the development of leadership in the next generation. But Bill, what's a piece of advice that you've received from a previous mentor of yours that stayed with you and has supported you in your professional and public office careers to date?
I guess off the top of your head, you sort of look back at even back in my cricket days where I was told very early, I think I got a few runs or something in a district game when I was quite young, and the back page was saying, made complimentary comments, and someone looked at me and said, "Don't believe your own publicity. Don't get carried away. Don't get carried away." The lady in Armstrong also told me that to get something done, you need 50% plus one. That's all you need. Yeah. So, and the other bit of advice I got from the late Robert Wilson, the former Mayor of Parkes, who I met very early being on council, and I think it's a good advice for a lot of young people going into council, is that you think you're going to make a change straight away. You don't. You find that you're dealing with issues that you will be resolving down the track. You get a bit frustrated, but when you look back 3 or 4 or 5 years later, you go, "Oh, we've done it.
Yeah.
It's got there." So just temper your expectations a little bit, but work through the process to get where you get to.
Yeah, it's good advice, I guess, just patiently and methodically working your way through your issues. And
it's a process.
Yeah, it's a process. Yeah.
And the other thing in terms of going to the community, if you've got a process, you can explain you've got a process. They mightn't like it, but you can at least got a process which is consistent and helps you make consistent decisions as well. Yeah,
no, absolutely good advice. Now, it's been a challenging last 12 months for a lot of communities and a lot of businesses across our region and around the nation. But as a local leader in our region, Bill, what have you learned about yourself during such a up and down 12 months?
You're always learning about yourself, and sometimes you surprise yourself. I think it's taught me the need for a little bit more patience, and that everybody is dealing with a lot of issues in their private life as well as their public life. So be a bit kinder to people, because there are issues that they're dealing with that may be work-related. I think COVID-19 really highlighted that, where people couldn't go and visit family, couldn't go and visit friends. There was uncertainty in the community about where this COVID was going to land, particularly early days. So I think that to take that step back and just be a little more understanding of the issues people have to deal with.
Now, that's sound advice, and I guess we're coming towards the end of this morning's chat, but I've got a couple more good questions for you, Bill. I guess, as we've talked about the last 12 months, but looking into the crystal ball, what's your prediction for the Cowra community in our region over, say, the next 12 to 18 months?
Oh, I think the next 12 to 18 months is going to be quite exciting, to be quite frank. There will be decisions around Wangler Dam, which will obviously engage the community. I think that there will be a conversation around the hospital. The community will be engaged again in what's happening at the hospital, and that's going to be exciting for the community. They need to be patient, because these things are slow projects. They're not going to happen tomorrow, but there's a process, and it'll be quite exciting to see that unfold. I think getting things like the Main Street completed, it's almost completed now, but some of those issues are completed. I think the other one that's probably on the agenda is going to be continuation of the Peace Precinct and those walking areas, and promoting some of the stuff we've already started our planning. And maybe in the next 12, 18 months there'll be some conversations about heavy vehicles through the Main Street and that ongoing conversation. And hopefully the Blunney-to-Monroe Rail Line will continue to raise its head as a big infrastructure priority that will again have benefits to Cowra and the region. Yeah,
well look, there's been plenty happening in Cowra and the surrounds, and there's plenty more in the pipeline. And I know that rail line's one of your projects that you're passionate about, Bill, but maybe that's one for another day. But yes. I guess if viewers or listeners tuning in this morning wanting to engage with you or with the council to learn more about those projects or the local priorities here, what's the easiest way they can do that?
I'm available to anybody who wants to talk to me. Email is publicly available on the website, but it's mayor@cowra.nsw.gov.au. My mobile phone number.
Easy.
You give my mobile phone number out, and quite happy to talk, or you can ring council and talk to the executive PA, and she'll arrange to catch up or pass messages on. And I know that if people are interested, also general managers are available, as are my colleagues. They're all available. So it's not a one-man band. The colleagues are very, very good and very much involved too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put the details up for the Cowra Council website there to learn a little bit more about those priority projects that we've been talking about this morning. But hope everyone's got a lot out of this morning's chat to learn more about the Mayor's journey and a little bit about what's happening here in Cowra. But Bill, thank you very much for your time. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend, and we'll catch you same time next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sam.